Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Let's talk about Twitter's earnings. So Twitter's growth has disappointed analysts. Their earnings were in line or beat expectations, but their users, their growth, their daily active users really disappointed analysts. They were hoping for much more in the fourth quarter as Twitter reported their earnings for Q4, and their stock tumbled after they reported. Now, Twitter's fourth quarter average monetizable DAU, daily active users, was 192 million. Now, people were actually pulling for, they were hoping it would be 193.5 million. That was the estimate. It did beat out last year. Last year at the same time, they had, let me get the exact number, I think it was 152 million in the same quarter of last year. So they grew a lot. The reasons they grew in from year to year, well, it's two reasons really. Number one is the coof. So a lot of people were indoors and they had nothing to do. And what I think is the more important factor was everything in and around Trump. So remember, Q4 was when Trump was tweeting like crazy. It was the election. Twitter was censoring everything Trump tweeted, and then came the day where they completely axed him, where they deplatformed a sitting U.S. president. So Q4 was a super active quarter for Twitter, and they got a lot of publicity. I mean, they were literally in the news every day. They were the center of the news because of what they did to a U.S. president. So I agree with analysts. We should have probably seen 194, 195 daily active users, but they fell a couple of million short of that. Now, just to put it into perspective real quick, I just want to put everything into perspective as far as daily active users. And for this, I am going to a Zero Hedge article, and it's actually pulling from Bloomberg. So this is what Bloomberg's Sarah Frier said about Twitter's size. This is why Twitter is in such a weak position. Everybody in media uses Twitter. Every politician uses Twitter, but their monetizable daily active user base is still smaller than the overall population of the US. Snapchat is bigger. Instagram is bigger. Facebook is many times bigger. That's why whenever Twitter user growth decelerates, investors get concerned. That is exactly how I think about it. Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, is bigger than Twitter. Snapchat is bigger than Twitter. 192 million daily active users. How many of those users are actually real people as well? How many are bots? I mean, 20% is probably bots. Another 20% are probably trolls. I mean, how many people actually use Twitter on a daily basis, religiously, actively, constructively? What percentage of that 192? I don't know, 20%, 30%, 40%? Can't be more than 40, 50%. I think the rest of it is just garbage. The rest of those users are just pure garbage. So Twitter is in big trouble. They are a tiny, tiny network. And now they're going to go into Q1. They're going to enter the year. And they're going to enter the year with people starting to get out. Hopefully all of this ends. All these lockdowns end, especially in the US, and people start to get out. People aren't going to have time to sit at home and screw around, muck around on Twitter. That's going to really hurt them. And the biggest bomb on Twitter, what's going to really crush them, is no more Trump. They lost their biggest superstar, their main attraction. They're not going to make it. They are not going to make it. Not to mention that so many people in Q4 have all gone. Either at first they were going to Parler, and then they all went to Gab, right? So a whole bunch of people went to Gab. A whole bunch of people closed down their accounts. A whole bunch of people, Twitter closed down on their own. Boy, talk about killing yourselves. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. How can you be a CEO of this company and not realize that you are the smallest of all the big tech networks? You're smaller than social networks which are owned by other companies like Instagram. You're smaller than Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. How could you run this company to the ground like this? If you have only 192 million daily active users, and you actively go to purge tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of users, and you get rid of your biggest superstar, I mean, it's talk about a kamikaze suicide mission from Jack Dorsey. I mean, this was really, really badly managed quarter for them, and Q1 is just going to crush them. It is going to crush them. I expect Twitter's daily active users are going to probably be around what? 150? 140? I think it's going to be a huge drop. Guys, they're going to get bought. I thought that they would last maybe 2-3 years. I think they're going to get bought in the next year. Maybe year and a half. They're just not big enough. They're not big enough to take on Trump. They're not big enough to take on the MAGA movement, the America First movement. They're not big enough. They are not big enough. If you had all 75 million people that voted for Trump go to Gab, all of them go to Gab, Gab is bigger than Twitter. Gab will be bigger than Twitter. And it'll be real people, not bots and trolls. So yeah, I think Gab is at like what? I had an interview. I watched an interview with Torba, the CEO of Gab, and I think he said they're at like I think he said 30 or 40 million daily active users. I might be wrong, but if someone knows the number, let me know in the description box down below. But I think they're getting up there. They are getting up there. So they're catching up to Twitter very, very fast. So, man. Okay, earnings, revenue, $129 billion. Fourth quarter ad revenue, 1.16. What else? EPS, 27 cents. Okay, EPS, they were estimating 30 cents. They got 27 cents. Revenue, they beat it slightly. Ad revenue, they beat it slightly. Earnings before income and tax, depreciation, 508 million, estimated 420 million. Okay, so they beat that. So on the revenue side, they did well, but the most important part of all of this is that their user base did not grow, and it didn't grow in a quarter where they were in the news literally every single second of every single day. And they had the whole Trump thing to market off of. And they still missed it. They still missed it. They're going to get crushed in Q1. They are going to get crushed. Big time. All right, guys. That is the video. I thought I would do a quick update as to Twitter's earnings. And be patient, because everything they did in Q4 is going to come back to get them in Q1 and Q2. You can bet on it. You can bet on it. Everything that they've done is going to come back to haunt them. It is going to hurt them. All right, guys. I hope it was worth it, Jack. I really hope it was worth it. All right, guys. That's the video. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch. Maybe pick up a cool long sleeve. Look for the Duran's main channel. Look for Alexandra's channel. Also, PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, and Bitcoin, Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey as well. You'll find my channel on all those networks. Take care.